request the proposed variance.
Is there any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any opponents? Anyone else in favor? Okay. No? Okay. Okay, that's it. Is there, does the, there are no opponents. I can't hear you. Okay, hearing, since there's no other comments and no objections from the board, I will close this public hearing on this case, and the board will then take it under consideration and deliberate tonight, or,
Can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
can I have a motion to close this public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Haber?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye. Okay. So for the moment, we've closed the hearing on this one. We're going to discuss it. Or do you think we should go ahead and go
Let's
forward?
go ahead and have deliberation now.
Having visited the site, having looked at the documents, I see no reason to oppose this.
Okay.
I concur. It's as Mr. Haber pointed out, it's a small section, and due to a technicality based on what's considered the side yard is also a rear yard, I'm in favor of approving.
Yeah, I agree, especially given the testimony that the panhandle is unbuildable. So we're not really encroaching on anybody within that property. So I concur.
Okay.
Yep, I agree with all that. I don't think it's a substantial variance. It won't affect the character of the neighborhood. Won't affect delivery government services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the variance so long as the construction is done in substantial compliance with the plans dated January 16th, 2020.
We have a motion. We have a second?
Friendly amendment to start construction within 1 year and complete within 2 years.
Okay.
And to incorporate staff's findings.
And I would offer a second on that.
Okay.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Haber?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye. Okay, we have to,
All right, so yeah, this is a little out of order. We don't normally do this like this way, but we're gonna go ahead and journalize. Do you have the?
Yeah, can we do number 3 first?
We're gonna journalize
I'll get number 2 ready.
case 3.
Case 3 should be good right now.
okay, we're ready to move on to,
So this, on the agenda, this will be item number 8. We're gonna go ahead and decide and journalize on, let me see here, sorry, on case 3, 2020, so the board, no, the board can review this now.
okay.
Oh, sorry,
Some of us mature guys.
my bad.
You okay, Steve?
Yeah, I want to, at the end of 2, where you say the Panhandle offers an extended buffer between the probe and the nearest residence to the southwest due to its inability to contain another structure. How's that? Okay.
Missed half that sentence if you're updating the
My
font.
bad. We ready to move on?
Yes.
Need to pluralize conditions before number 1.
Mr. Chair, regarding case 3-2020 BZA, I move that we approve and journal our decision.
Second.
They're going to call a roll?
Yeah, Mr. Shekels,
Aye.
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Sion,
Aye.
Mr. Nye,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, we have to journalize it. And the decision's made.
We, yeah, 1 second, I'm gonna print here.
Case number 2 was our denial.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm working on a revised resolution for that.
Are we going to journal that tonight?
We were gonna try to, I just need a few more minutes.
We can hold off until
Or we
next
can
month if
hold
you'd
off on
prefer.
next month.
Well, typically, that's been our procedure, so
Okay.
I'm trying to
Okay.
understand.
hold off.
Yeah,
We
we're
have it
fine
because
holding off
council
then.
reviews, but council.
We can journalize that.
review.
No, I have not reviewed it, but I think I think there was a reason for doing it tonight as opposed to, or at least now, as opposed to the end of the meeting, but
We can just wait
If-
till the
Yeah,
next
we can wait till
meeting,
next meeting.
if that's the board's preferred direction.
Right. Do you need a motion?
Or do you have, how far along are you with it?
Let's make a motion to, I think we would prefer to journalize case 2 at next month's meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we journal case 2-2020 BZA at our next meeting.
Second.
Okay. Gonna call the roll.
Mr. Shekels,
Aye.
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Sion,
Aye.
Mr. Nye,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I did.
Okay. All right, with that, we have one case from last month's meeting that needs to be journalized. That's case 17, 2019. So I'll pull that up for your review now. This was a case for 6 separate variances at the property for 1213 Immaculate Lane.
Sorry for the delay out there. I guess you all are here for case number 4, huh? Yeah, yeah. Let's move on then, get this thing done.
Let me know when you guys are ready.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we combined the reasoning for the first 6 variances, or I'm sorry, for variances A through E, since those were all approved, and then we did separate findings for the variance that was denied.
I'm ready.
Brad, in the granting of the first variance, it should be variance A, B, C, and E are hereby granted. So if it, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we did put a condition that the accessory structure, which was denied, shall be moved within 90 days of this decision.
Can we deny subject to conditions? Or do we have to just deny?
That was something we were wondering as well. This just gives us kind of something to fall back on if after 90 days the structure still hasn't been removed. Gary, is that?
Yeah,
is
I think
acceptable?
in the case where there's an existing structure that was not applied for prior to construction, I don't see any problem with conditioning that on giving us a particular date. I mean, you deny the variance, the staff could go out tomorrow and say it's in violation. You know, so I mean, I think that's just staff's choice. I think it's fine, condition that like that.
And Mr. Chair, regarding case 17-2019 BZA, I move that we approve and journal our decisions.
Second the motion.
We have a second? Proposed?
Mr. Shekels?
I was not at the meeting, so I will abstain.
Mr. Haber?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye.
Mr. Nye?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye. Okay, we can,
Mr. Chairman and Secretary.
are we prepared to go ahead and move on?
He's good, yeah.
Jeff, do you want to?
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from case 4-2020 BZA, so I ask for permission to be excused from the remainder of the meeting. I don't know if we
Do I
need a
need-
motion to that effect.
I don't
Any
think we need a
objection?
motion.
No objection.
Okay, thanks for coming.
See you guys next month.
See you next month. I think we need, I think we need a rail.
So we do have one of our alternate Board of Zoning Appeals members here tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and switch out the name tag, and Scott, you can go ahead and step up here.
Brad, 606 again? 606.
Okay, could the staff read the summary on case number 4-20?
Yep. So the applicant for case number 4, 2020 is Patrick R. Veith of Stagnaro, Saba, and Patterson on behalf of Neeson Properties LLC. The location is at 7577 Forest Road, and the zoning is B residence. The request is a conditional use request to allow a group home or an assisted living facility with 16 units. Group homes are a permitted conditional use in a single-family residential district per Article 5.4 I-5 of the Township zoning resolution. This is the definition of a group home which the applicant is meeting. It's a residence or facility that provides accommodations for 6 to 16 unrelated adults and provides supervision and personal care services to at least 3 of these unrelated adults. The definition shall include professional support staff provided by a sponsoring agency either living with the residents on a 24-hour basis or present on shifts who live together as a single housekeeping unit in a long-term family-like environment in which staff persons provide care, education, and participation in community activities for the residents in order to enable them to live as independently as possible in a residential environment. The definition shall not include any alcoholism or drug treatment centers, a work release facility for convicts or ex-convicts, or any other housing facilities to serve as an alternative to incarceration. The proposed development is, the applicant is proposing to construct a 7,602 square foot addition to the existing 4,986 square foot building, along with interior renovations for an assisted living facility. The facility will consist of 16 units for unrelated adults and will provide supervision and personal care services for the residents. Operations include approximately 7 to 10 employees who will provide 24-hour care, education, and participation in community events for the residents. The proposal also includes parking lot modifications, additional landscape screening, a courtyard, pedestrian facilities, and an on-site stormwater detention facility. A little bit of history about the property. The zoning certificate was issued for the former Jehovah's Witness Church building and signage in 1989, and the building was constructed in 1991. In 1997, a zoning certificate was issued for the entrance gate that's existing on the site. In 2009, a zoning certificate was issued for 5 temporary storage trailers to be used during a renovation of the building, and that was completed in 2009. The church ceased operations a few years ago, and the building is currently vacant. So here is a map of the property. You can see across the street, this is Anderson, one second here.
High school?
Yes, sorry, I was getting my pointer. Across the street, this is Anderson High School, and then these are a few office buildings on 5 Mile Road with houses to the south and then to the north. This is an aerial of the site, and you can see the paved parking lot that's in the rear of the property currently. This is a topography map of the site. It's relatively flat due to the parking lot in the rear yard, slightly sloping towards Forest Road in the front. And then this is an aerial photo of the property that was provided by the applicant. So this is the proposed site plan. Right here, I'm outlining the existing building currently, and then this is the addition that's being proposed. The courtyard is this area right here. You can see there's a sidewalk across the frontage of the site. There are 16 parking spots to accommodate the residents, and there's some additional screening along the property lines, surrounding the parking lot to meet that screening for the parking lot. And then this is the detention facility that I was referring to. And then you can see several trees that are currently existing on the site. This is the proposed site plan. This is just the interior layout of the building. And this shows what one of the units will look like. So this is one of the elevations, the east elevation of the building. This is what would be visible from Forest Road. This is the north building elevation, so the properties to the north would see this side of the building. This is the west building elevation, the portion that backs up to the office buildings on 5 Mile Road. And then this is the south building elevation, which would be visible to properties at the south of this property. So I'll go through a couple pictures that staff took while out on site. This is the front of the existing building as seen from Forest Road. This is the parking lot in the back along the northern property line where there's an existing 6-foot privacy fence along with some mature trees. This is the house to the to the north. This is the existing parking lot in the rear of the property. This is where the addition is proposed. And then you can see some of those office buildings on 5 Mile Road back behind the trees. This is the property, this is the northwest corner of the property, sorry. And the building in the background is one of the buildings on 5 Mile Road. And then this is the southwest corner of the property, also looking back towards Forest Road, 5 Mile Road. And then this is the rear of the building where the addition is proposed. This is along the northern property line. You can see there's some mature trees that have been trimmed back. Again, this is the northern property line. This is another view of that property line and the parking lot. So staff findings, for conditional uses, we have multiple sets of conditions that, or I'm sorry, standards that are to be applied. So standards out of Article 2.12 D8, and then also standards in Article 5.4 I5. I'll go over the Article 2.2 D8 first. The spirit and intent, the proposed use and development would comply with the spirit and intention of the zoning resolution and with the district proposed by meeting the conditional use standards. While the addition is large, it is still residential in nature and may be less intense than a church. Additionally, there are other non-single-family uses in the vicinity, including Anderson High School, Anderson Hills United Methodist Church, and Wellington Orthopedic Center, Orthopedic Sports and Medicine. No adverse effect. The proposed assisted living facility could have an adverse effect upon the adjacent property or the public health, safety, and general welfare due to the scale of the proposed addition. The applicant has proposed additional landscape screening, and there are currently mature trees to the south with a 6-foot privacy fence on the northern property line. However, the 7,602 square foot addition could impact the residential properties to the north and to the south. The area where the addition is proposed was previously used as a parking lot, and the proposal includes significantly less parking on site with 16 parking spaces. Protection of public services, the proposed assisted living facility will respect the natural, scenic, and historic features of significance, of significant public interest, as the proposed plan includes a new water retention facility, which should improve the water runoff in the area from the existing parking lot on the property. Currently, the property has no detention facility. And then consistency with township, adopted township plans. This plan is in consistent with the township's comprehensive plan, specifically the people and housing section and the land use and development. So this is out of the people and housing section. The township should provide a variety of businesses and housing options to meet the changing demographics and market demand, and then also out of people and housing section of the comprehensive plan, encourage the development of a variety of housing options to attract and retain a diverse population that include open spaces, sidewalks, trails, and other neighborhood scale amenities. And then in the future land use map in the comprehensive plan, this property is called out as an institutional use, but the properties to the north are called out for transitional residence. And staff feels that this proposal is consistent with the transitional residence land use. So now I'll move on to the specific criteria in Article 5.4 I5. Parking shall not be permitted in the area defined as the front yard setback. We found that to be in compliance. The facility shall be reasonably accessible, either by its location or transportation provided by the applicant to medical, recreational, and retail services, as well as employment opportunities that may be required by its residents. We found that to be in compliance as well. Condition M, no exterior alterations of the existing structure shall be made that depart from the residential character of the building. All new structures shall be compatible in residential design with the surrounding neighborhood. However, any improvements required by code or necessitated by licensing requirements shall not be deemed incompatible. While the materials used for the 7,602 square foot addition match the existing building, the size of the addition could depart from the residential character of the neighborhood. I'll move on to N. The architectural design and site layout of the structure and its location, nature, and height of any walls, screen, and fences are to be compatible with the adjoining land uses and residential character of the neighborhood. So while there are existing mature trees on the southern property line, a 6-foot privacy fence on the northern property line, and additional screening proposed, staff feels that additional screening could be proposed or may be needed. Additionally, with the size of the addition, staff's unable to determine if the proposed facility is with the residential character of the neighborhood, is compatible with the residential character of the neighborhood. P is about signage. Signage shall be regulated as follows. No sign shall be erected except those exempt under Article 5.5D3. So there wasn't a sign shown on the plan, but the applicant has stated that the monument sign on Forest Road will comply with the requirements in Article 5.5D3 of the zoning resolution. And we have a staff recommended condition regarding this finding. S, all exterior lighting shall be directed away from the adjacent residential properties. The applicant has indicated that the site will be lit by wall pack fixtures and has stated that all exterior lighting will be designed to comply with the requirements in Article 5.3K of the zoning resolution. And again, we have a recommended condition for this as well. Last two findings here. T, documentation indicating the need for the facility, the specific clientele it will serve, and the location and type of similar facilities operated by the applicant shall be submitted as part of the application. We found this to be in compliance. V, the applicant shall provide a plan indicating the manner in which the facility will maintain contact with the neighborhood residents, along with a structured procedure whereby the residents' grievances may be filed with the township and resolved by the facility. We found this to be in compliance as well. So, I mentioned we had a couple of staff recommended conditions. Should the board approve the conditional use for a group home, staff recommends the following conditions. Revised site plan shall be submitted with the proposed freestanding monument sign shown on it and in compliance with Article 5.5D3 of the zoning resolution, and that is to be approved by staff. And then also a lighting plan shall be submitted in compliance with Article 5.3K of the Anderson Township zoning resolution and also approved by staff. So again, I've got 3 slides here that show all of the standards that are to be considered, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Have any questions from the board?
I do have a question. As currently configured, there's no, it complies with all the zoning regulations, correct?
Yes.
Any others?
It's defined in our comprehensive plan, and 1 second, we'll get that definition for you. You wanna read it?
Yeah, I can read it. Paul, or Mr. Shekels, are you ready? So transitional residence, as defined in our 2016 comprehensive plan, states moderate density detached or attached housing and related compatible uses, excluding office, commercial, and industrial uses, which provide a transition between single-family residential and other types of development, where such uses will effectively terminate the spread of higher intensity uses and conserve the adjacent residential neighborhoods.
Any other questions? Okay. Then we'll go ahead and move on. Yep. Will the applicant or the applicant's representatives please come to the podium, speak in the microphone, state your name, address, and any affiliation, and present your appeal.
Thank you. My name is Patrick Veith. I'm an attorney at Stagnaro, Saba & Patterson. I represent the applicant, Neeson Properties. Our office is located at 7373 Beachmont Avenue. Thanks to the staff for providing such a detailed report, and thank you for having us tonight. Most of the information is contained in our application and also in the staff report, and in the interest of time, I'm not going to regurgitate everything that's in there, but I do want to hit a couple of highlights for you. As mentioned, a group home is a permitted conditional use at 7577 Forest Road. While the zoning resolution classifies this as the use as a group home, in common terms, it's referred to as a residential assisted living facility, just so there's no confusion with the actual term group home. As a conditional use, we must satisfy the general criteria that's set forth in Article 212 and the specific criteria set forth in Article 5.4. Based on the information provided in our application and in the staff report, we feel we have adequately addressed all of the required criteria. However, if you have any specific questions regarding either our responses in our application or any issues with the staff, I'm certainly happy to answer any pointed questions you have on our addressing the criteria in the code. And I know that one issue that came up in the report, and just to alleviate any concerns about the residential feel of the project, let's first talk about the current property. It contains a vacant church building, and as you can see, or as you can see in the pictures, a very, very large parking lot. The property has been vacant for a number of years, and it's been listed on the market for 499 days. The proposed use will be a great complement to the neighborhood, and even with the addition of the building, it will be significantly more residential in nature and in appearance than what's currently at the site. You will notice this heightened residential feel by the significantly reduced parking. As staff mentioned, the parking will be reduced to 16 spots. You'll also notice the extensive landscaping, the detention facility, and the improvements to the property, including exterior windows, that will make it feel more residential in character. My client is investing a significant amount of money to improve the vacant property and will market this as a desirable residential living facility where people will want to live. As you know, there are many high-intensity uses in the immediate vicinity. Anderson High School is across the street. Anderson Hills United Methodist Church and Christ Hospital are on the corner of Beachmont 5 Mile. The town center is right down the street. Wellington Orthopedics and the other various high-intensity commercial sites on 5 Mile line the back of this property. My client's intended use will complement these high-intensity uses. So ultimately, the project is in line with the township's comprehensive plan, as you just saw. It'll bring additional jobs to the township. My client anticipates employing about 7 to 10 highly qualified individuals and professional support staff. And as the township has further noted, there's a growing need for alternative housing options for the township's changing demographics, and my client's facility will address these needs. Finally, I want to emphasize that the facility will be run by Gwendolyn Neeson. Gwendolyn and her husband have lived and worked in Anderson Township for over 20 years. Gwendolyn is highly qualified to run this facility, as she has an MSW and is a licensed social worker. She's present in case you have any questions for her. The site plan's attached to our application, and also here tonight we have Matt Salee of CM Squared and Katie Connor, who provided the plans that you have reviewed. They're also able to answer any questions you have. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about our application or my client's intended use for the property.
How many staff will be on duty at any given time, minimum, maximum?
I believe 2 to 3. It's a 24-hour, they'll be working shifts, so there will be 2 to 3 there on a 24-hour basis.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay. Well, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I apologize, I was not sworn in.
Oh. Let me swear you in. Okay, ready?
Sure.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Katie Connor. I'm the architect with ArcX Studio. Our office is at 1616 Vine Street in Cincinnati. I don't want to go over too many details, but if there are questions on the site plan or interiors, I'm happy to answer those. I want to speak a little bit about the character of the facility and the addition. As Pat mentioned, the existing building was previously used as a church. It has somewhat of a residential character by its nature. It is a brick facade with a gabled roof. We intend to carry that through with the addition, as well as add more windows, especially on that west facade, the front facade on Forest Road, which would add to the residential character as well. And we do plan on adding vegetation to screen the parking, and as also Pat mentioned, we are reducing the parking substantially from what is there. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Was a lighting plan designed along with the plans?
We have not as yet developed that. We're in the preliminary stages, but we intend to comply with the zoning resolutions. Primarily, they would be on the building, wall pack type of fixtures, generally directed down and away from the residents.
Thank you.
You have a note about an existing wood fence, is that on this property line?
That has not been determined. I'm not sure whose property line that is on.
Okay, so you haven't done a stake survey of it yet?
Not yet.
And you also had several notes about existing trees,
Yes.
but no note about, are they staying? Are they being removed? Is there
Yes.
a plan to
The
replace
trees
them?
would remain in place that are there, the mature trees, and then we would supplement as needed for screening.
I do have a question for the architect. I need you to go to the elevations, if you would, please, and especially the one on the south.
Which way? After the pictures? Before? Okay.
That one right there. Seems to be a rather large structure. I understand connecting the brick in with the existing structure, and yet when I look at the surrounding architectural style or what, there's a lot of wood, a lot of clapboard siding, some brick up to an eave with wood above the eave up to the peak. So I wondered if there was, you could say something to how you believe that this responds to the character of the neighborhood, because it looks with the size of the regular windows at a steady, repetitive rate, looks pretty institutional to me.
Well, I think, it's probably the most noticeable on this edge, as you mentioned. We can work on the patterning or the spacing of the windows and size to help, I guess, make it less institutional. And also on this side, it's not demonstrated the landscaping that is along that edge, just so we were clearly demonstrating the facade of that elevation. But there are obviously existing trees along that edge as well.
Can you go to the north elevation? That one right there.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah. I mean, I think you've got a little bit of variation going on here because of the fence in the courtyard and whatnot. I just wondered if there's something that you can do that would make this a more lively structure, more lively elevation, so that it would fit in more with the neighborhood, with the materials that have been used in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And this is conceptual still in nature. I think we could certainly add, cornicing above the windows and just some details, architectural details to enhance that
Okay.
residential nature.
All right.
I'd like to go back to the south elevation. I understand the windows are, where the windows are because of the rooms. That
Correct,
doesn't bother
yes.
me, okay? But, and I understand there's gonna be limited visibility to, I don't know how many houses down the road. Well, I visited the site, I didn't go 4 or 5 houses down the road. But the length of that structure from a visibility standpoint, with no break in it of any kind, sort of concerns me.
Okay. It's a valid point. With the parking layout, if you could go to the site plan, we are somewhat, we did study actually several iterations of the plan on the site, and you can see where the rear setback is pretty close to the parking. So in order to get the parking in, it's somewhat sculpted, the arrangement of the addition. But we could certainly take your comment and see if there are ways to kind of break up that south facade.
I'm good.
Okay, there's no questions. Thank you very much. Are there any other, okay.
I apologize, I didn't get sworn in also.
Ready? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. My name is Gwendolyn Neeson. I live at 6803 Stonington Road here in Anderson Township.
I'm sorry, what was your address one more time?
6803 Stonington Road. And I'm proposing to run this facility. I used to work. Sure.
Yeah, bring the
Pull it-
mic
just
down.
Pull it down.
There you go.
There you go.
The vision behind this project is really just to provide a family-centered, nurturing environment for the elderly. When I was growing up, my grandparents had a home, and they were just loving, and the people that lived there were usually single people who otherwise would have been lonely and either in a larger facility or on their own, and just had a history of just seeing this growing up, and I'm just looking forward to providing, like I said, a nurturing environment for people who otherwise might be, lonely.
Any questions?
Right,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any other persons that want to speak in favor? Okay, seeing that there are none, we'll take testimony from those that opposed. Any opposed?
While I'm not, my name's Kathy Mullaney, and I live on Forest Avenue, or Forest Road. And
What's
while
your
I'm actually
sorry,
not opposed.
ma'am.
What's your address, ma'am?
Huh?
What's your address?
7609 Forest Road.
Thank you.
While I'm actually not opposed to the center itself, we have been under construction since Anderson High School is going under construction again this summer. It'll be the 5th continuous year. And if you notice in their plan, they didn't submit a construction schedule. That's few of our concerns. And then another one of our concerns is this outfit has a special assessment till the year 2099 for a tax rate of 0. I know that it doesn't apply to you, but it does upset a few of us that are paying high property taxes in Anderson Township. Then the third thing was the scope of work is all over the place if you look at it. If on page 2, it says that they are going to employ 7 to 10 highly qualified individuals and professional support staff. And then if you go to page, I think it's page 5, it says that, it says something, or it says in Scott's letter to them that they will be also looking into hiring high school students in their letter from Scott Prebles. So another one of my questions, is their staff going to be licensed by the state? Or are they just going to be highly professional? Are they going to get background checks? Are they going to be local by the sheriff? Are they going to be, those are concerns. I mean, we have children on the street. We have a child care center behind them. Then the other thing, it says up to 16 unrelated adults. So does that mean in the future, if they're not able to get elderly in there, are they going to be able to bring younger adults in? Are they going to be able to change their scope? So those are just some of my concerns. And a third thing is, since the traffic on 5 Mile has gotten so bad, everybody boasts that it has lessened. But the reason why it is lessened is because everybody is using our road to circumvent 5 Mile. And I'm sure several of my neighbors can attest to that. And the sheriff's department, we absolutely get no help from. All they've done is they've come and posted a 35-mile speed limit to every 10 or 15 feet. So I'd like, when are their deliveries going to be? How many deliveries are there going to be? How much, is their scheduling going to be? How much congestion are they going to add to the neighborhood? And so forth. Those kind of questions answered before you approve their zoning request. Thank you.
Will there be any questions for? Thank you. Any other opponents? Opposition? Okay. Any questions from the board? No? Hearing no further comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would invite the appellant, if she would like to come up and address some of those things that maybe aren't related to zoning, but are related to operations, so that we could maybe get some of those answers here, if that's reasonable.
Yes, sir. I would, happy to answer any questions you might have. Again,
Well,
my
I
name
was
is Patrick
wanting, I
Veit.
was wanting perhaps the operator who might, because a lot of what she was questioning was regarding what I would consider to be state of Ohio standards that are gonna be necessary in order to operate this, as far as licensing of personnel and whatnot. So I think, deliveries or whatnot, so we,
I
Yeah.
can certainly have Ms. Neeson come up. I'll just clear up one piece of information. The letter that we attached to our application from the school board was a letter of support. There was no indication, as mentioned, that we were going to employ high school kids. That was simply, I'm not sure where that came from, but that's not the case. If you look at our application, we indicate that everyone that we employ will be licensed as needed with the state and highly qualified. So to the extent that you have any questions on that, Ms. Neeson can certainly answer those. But that is just one item of clarification.
Ma'am, can you please come to the microphone if you have other questions?
Yes, any employee that we would hire would have to go through a background check. Anybody who works for the supporting the elderly or children are required to have a background check, so we would, of course, follow those standards. And we would do best practices for all, for our facility. And every employee that we have would definitely go through, be certified as necessary. I think there's like a medication certification aid for people who are just there as a support staff also, and a food service, things like that. I think as far as deliveries go, I don't anticipate many beyond after construction and stuff is done, but like foods, supplies, and things like that. But I don't think it would be on a regular basis where we would have large deliveries or anything. And as far as traffic, I'm not anticipating there'd be a lot of traffic. Besides people that would be coming to visit and our employees, I don't think there would be a lot of extra traffic. If there's anything else you can recall that she was concerned
those
about.
deliveries, they'll generally be between business hours, 9 to 5, I
Yes,
presume.
for sure, yes. And I will be there myself running the facility, so if the residents in the neighborhood have any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to work with them to cooperate. I want us to be neighbors, and I want this to be a positive addition to the community. And we live in Anderson Township, so we pay taxes, so it's not like we're not without understanding of their concern about. So
I think one of the other questions had to do with, is it always going to be in your anticipation of senior citizens
that's
or seniors?
yes, that's
facility?
my goal in our plan. Right, we haven't thought of outside that, so we're just planning on being a residential care facility for the elderly. Really.
What's the projected construction schedule for the facility?
I was not sworn in to be in it.
Oh, you weren't sworn in
No, I
either?
was not. I was here for moral
You
support.
you think, as many times as I've said this, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, while we haven't developed a completely detailed schedule, we're looking at.
I'm sorry, can you state your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Matt Silly. I'm with CM Squared. We're located at 5777 Kellogg.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I apologize. But no, right now, we're looking at an approximately 7-month construction schedule. A lot of it starts right, I mean, the whole process starts right now, as far as when, not 7 months from now. Yeah, oh yeah, there will definitely be construction.
Sir, if you could address the.
Oh, I
We
apologize.
should be addressing the podium and.
Yep.
Any questions that,
I apologize. Yes, there will, yeah, we're going through 7 months, yes, there will be some overlap between the school and construction.
okay, and presuming you got approval, let's say today, approval from staff in the next couple days, when would you break ground?
If we still have to finish all the completed, sorry, I'm gonna kind of think out loud here for a second, if you don't mind. And I don't wanna throw any of the architectural design team, I'm guessing probably anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks, around 6 weeks to finish the design, probably about another 4 to 5 weeks once it's submitted for permit before getting a permit approval. So there's 10 weeks, so probably 2.5, 3 months potentially starting up.
Thank you.
Has the property been purchased yet?
I cannot speak to that, I don't know.
Because I noticed the sign still in the front.
Yes, my understanding, or questions directed to the board and then to us.
Yeah.
They should be,
Yes.
yeah, everybody should be coming up
Like,
forward.
yes, we're currently under contract and in due diligence.
So it hasn't closed yet.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
are there any other opposition? Okay, hearing no further comments, and if there's no objections from the board, I will close this public hearing and on this case. We need a motion.
So move.
Second.
Roll.
Mr. Shekels,
Aye.
Mr. Haber,
Aye.
Mr. Sion,
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence,
Aye.
Mr. Halpin.
Aye.
With that, we can move on to deliberation of case 4, 2020.
We're going to discuss it now and try to make a decision. And then, once we've made our decision, then it'll be journalized, and then the journalization will be available probably next month. So that's pretty much the long and the short of it,
Depending if we approve or not.
depending on whether we approve it or not. So, who wants to open discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm generally in favor of granting this conditional use application for a number of reasons. Number one, the property has been sitting vacant for a while. It's an allowed use within single-family districts. Certainly to have the property used, I believe is a positive to the neighborhood. And I state, I'm not going to restate staff's findings here because there are some things that need to be done. Anytime you have a structure like this, there's going to be some institutional aspect about it. And I am not in agreement that, at least at this point, that it blends in with the fabric of the neighborhood, either in construction or even building type, although we do have the high school across the street. My biggest concern, and I think staff raised that point, is that even though there's gonna be some, screening by, existing vegetation, I'm looking here and say why the materials used for the addition match the existing building. The size of the addition could depart from the residential character, and I think there needs to be some residential character construction. I don't know if it can be necessarily included in the design, but needs to be provided. I think I've got this, my biggest heartburn is gonna be whether or not it satisfies the, being compatible with the residential scale, and fabric of the neighborhood.
I'm generally leaning towards the approval, but I do have some concerns, as expressed, about the exterior structure and its appearance, as we discussed, okay? I'd like to see a little more, and I don't, how you do it is, you're the architect, and she's the owner, and it's your money, but I would like to see something done to provide a little more break in that long south wall. And it could just be a simple visual break, a bump out or a bump in, something to break that long wall from a visual standpoint. And I'd also like to see something done to address the vegetation, as we discussed.
I also concur along the lines of approval. I'm not an expert in architecture, so I can't really comment as to the walls, you know, and the design of that. You know, one thing that could obviate the need for that is, you know, just the landscaping buffer that covers everything. You know, it doesn't really matter to me what it looks like. You got greenery going through either on both sides, depending which way you're going. Then I see, you know, little need for that type of change in the building.
When I look at it, I look at the church as it is and look at the surrounding houses. Of course, not considering the high school. The building itself now doesn't match what's next to it. So the fact that they're building straight back and not out or up, to me, I don't think it will change it that much. I mean, the only people that it's going to affect are the ones that are directly adjacent to each side, the north and the south. So I don't really see an issue with it, other than landscaping and try to make it as residential looking as possible. But to me, when you drive by it, you can obviously tell it's a church. And the plans don't really change that a whole lot. And I don't know what they would do to do that other than change the whole front facade of it.
I agree with you about that. It's just that the south elevation, north, and I don't know how visible that is from further down the road, because when I was on the site, I didn't go down, but when you look at it on plan, it's a long building.
Exactly, so I'm thinking the only people that are gonna see it are the ones that are right next to, on either side.
Yeah.
You won't see, I mean, you're driving 35 miles an hour down the road, you're not gonna say, oh, wow, that building's
I agree.
200 feet long.
Another notable thing too that, you know, considering the turnout we had today and, you know, really only one person spoke really in opposition, I was expecting much more and, you know, but that always kind of weighs in, at least on my thinking, that, you know, there wasn't a big outcry against this, that either with regards to the aesthetics or to the, you know, the actual plan itself.
Right. And my thoughts too regarding that. No, except the opposition was more about technical stuff. Not
Right.
about anything, not about the look or any of that, or even the concern of what it's gonna be.
Well, I think if they were able to pull some materiality from the neighborhood, that it would do a couple things. It would reduce the scale of it from a height point of view, but would also could easily reduce the scale of that south elevation by just introducing some wood or something that would just break up that long expanse of brick. You go back one. Thank you. You see where where above that entrance, there's a structure such that if there was something that on the existing elevations or something that mimic that or put some wood in it or something, I think you'd be able to break up the scale and make this thing somewhat less institutional. I mean, you look at Arden Courts over on Clough, it's, I think it's a memory facility if I'm correct. It's, you know, it's vinyl siding with shutters on it. And, you know, even if you're gonna put some shutters on here, you know, it'd begin to make it look a little bit more residential. So, I'm trying to show respect for the existing neighborhood and say this thing needs to be designed, and we've got a professional here, a professional registered architect who has that capability of being able to make it look much more in line with the residential character of the neighborhood. And I don't know how you put that into a motion.
That would be mine.
I
Yeah, how do
agree.
you,
A simple dormer, false dormer on the side of that south side would make a tremendous difference in that visual.
So, the public hearing is currently closed, but it appears the applicant has something they'd like to say. We do have the option to reopen the public hearing, but that's up to the board.
make a motion to reopen the public hearing?
Second. We need to roll.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Haber?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence?
Aye.
Mr. Halpin?
Aye.
Thank you. I just want to address those concerns, you know, to the extent that you have concerns with the facade, with the materials, with the screening. Can you step to the mic, please? Yes. To the extent that you have any concerns with the facade, the materials, the screening, we're certainly amenable to including that in the plans here. So that's, you know, as mentioned, this is a preliminary design plan for the exterior, and, you know, obviously it's our goal to make this blend in, as Ms. Neeson said, to be a good neighbor, and those are that's part of being a good neighbor in our book. So.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions. Yeah, we closed the public.
Would you like to close the public hearing again? Okay. So we'll need a motion and a second as well.
Move to close.
Second?
Roll.
Mr. Shekels?
Aye.
Mr. Haber?
Aye.
Mr. Sion?
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence? Mr. Halpin?
Sure.
I mean, I think the challenge is gonna be, I mean, this is coming from the board that the design has an institutional look and feel to it, and haven't heard, and we've closed the public hearing, sure. So from a professional point of view, I think we can approve this contingent upon some process in order to make